In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Ghost, amen. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Saint Vincent Ferrum, Saint Jude, Lady of Victory, Lady of Sorrows, Lady of Christians, Saint Ignatius, Saint Francis Xavier, Saint Pius X. Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, amen. So, just a little update, because in the last couple of months there's been I guess there have been some developments in the movements in the society and the resistance. And in general, our little resistance movement is just steady and slowly growing overall throughout the world. More priests are joining and being expelled, being punished each month. But also there's a kind of a shift, a change going on right now, or just a change that's already there in 2012 is becoming more visible. When I went to India on Sunday, December the 29th, I arrived in India just after, it was a 3-day trip over there, arrived in the early morning Sunday. We had Solemn High Mass with Bishop Williamson and Father Vallen, who is a society priest there who's taking care of our resistance movement in India. And he was ordained in 2004, and he's taking care of the movement over there in India. Indian priest of the Society of St. Pius X, one of us. And we met and had the Solemn High Mass with the bishop. About 95 people at our Mass in the school, in the chapel, in the school in Madras. And that Sunday, you know that in that chapel, that's a chapel that Father Chazette, that I built in Madras with Father Chazelle's help a few years ago, and some of the people. The chapel is owned by a local parishioner. In India and in Asia in general, most of the properties are not owned by the society, but by the people. And this is one of those properties. Now, in April of 2013, Father Chazelle and I came and visited Madras, India again. And we went to the school there and said Mass. Father Couture told Joseph Raj, the owner of the school, if you allow Father Chazelle and Father Pfeiffer to say Mass there, to set foot in your school, we will shut down the Mass center. We will no longer have Mass in your chapel. And there's about 70 people that go to Mass there. It's our second largest center in India. And Father Vallen, who was still within the society mainstream at that time, told Father Couture, if you shut down that Mass center, I will not. I will continue to say Mass there. So they shut it down. And because they allowed us to say Mass there, I said Mass there, and then Father Chazelle said Mass there, and Father Couture then refused to say Mass there anymore because it let us set foot on the property, canceled the Masses there, and then Father Vallen persevered in those Masses, and about 60 of the 70 faithful stayed with us. So about 60, 65 stayed with us. About 5 in the beginning went with the mainstream society. So 65 with us, 65 with them. And now it's about 70, a little more than 70 with us, with new people coming on board, and about up to maybe 19 is what I saw on the weekend in Madras. This past weekend we had, or that weekend of the 29th, we had 95 people at Mass. And then that same day I went over in the afternoon to the Society Mass, which is in a Novus Ordo church, Stella Maris Church, with the written approval of the bishop. So we're kind of in a new epoch, a new epoch with the society. So this should be increasing throughout the world. And that is that the unapproved SSPX has written approval to have a Mass in the Novus Ordo Church, which makes it essentially like an indult Mass. And they are in one chapel in Madras, and then that chapel they're remodeling, the diocese is remodeling, so they moved them to another chapel with a guarantee that if they get moved to one chapel, they're going to give them another chapel, another chapel, another chapel, which means effectively that they're working within the diocese. And Father Bobla, the French superior in India, the SSPX superior, not criticizing the new Mass or the Vatican II. And so we find that essentially it's a practical indult Mass. The same thing is going on in Italy, but it's going on for many years. Then on the flip side, on the opposite side of the coin, we have the example here of an announcement a few weeks ago, apparently, in which Father Tom Scott said that in this place in Ohio, whichever place it is, in Cleveland or wherever it is in Ohio, possibly up in Dayton, that I'm not going to be able to maybe come here every week and say Mass, but don't worry, there's going to be another priest who comes, who's a very traditionally minded priest, who says both Masses, both the new Mass and the old Mass, and he will be saying Mass when I'm not here. So we have it's unapproved in the SSPX for a priest who says the new Mass still to be saying the Mass for our people publicly. Cannot be allowed. But it's happening. It's also, we're not supposed to be allowed as members of a excommunicated, irregular society to be able to say Mass inside of Novus Ordo churches with the permission of the bishop, but yet it's being allowed. So we're approved to have approved, unapproved Masses in the diocese, and they're approved to have unapproved Masses inside of our places. And this has already been going on in France with the Novus Ordo indult priest saying, coming and doing a wedding inside of our churches, inside of our church, which is already the same thing, been going on already in Europe for actually many years, and it's just spreading over here. So what we're seeing is the liberal spread is increasing. It's just increasing. The magazine in India is the Flying Squirrel, the SSPX magazine. We've mentioned this in the past. The old magazine was called the Salve Regina, and like the ladies in Madras said, we used to have the Salve Regina, now we've got a Flying Squirrel. What happened? And, and the Salve Regina was shut down because Father Vollen took care of that magazine. It had things like about Our Lady, about the Catholic faith, about the crisis in the church, about Artists de Lefebvre. And of course, these things are of no value to a traditional Catholic. And so therefore, they have replaced it with the Flying Squirrel. And Father Bobla, the superior of the SSPX in India, wrote down why he changed the name and created a magazine called the Flying Squirrel. He says squirrels are social creatures. Squirrels have a social interaction with each other, and we should have a good social interaction, and the Flying Squirrel is given to encourage us to have better social relationships. So that's standard, vintage, Artists de Lefebvre speak. Not exactly. Standard, better social relationships. I did a little bit of a study, just a quick study on the internet about the social relationship of squirrels. Squirrels are a female-dominated population, and the females create the little territories. They will often kill the other female that comes into the territory. Males have small territories within the female territory and under the female. And when you see squirrels chasing each other, it's because one squirrel is ticked off at another one. They're having social interaction. And sometimes they'll kill the other squirrel, or they'll bite and attack the other squirrel, and they'll chatter their teeth, which are all part of showing the domination of one over the other. And basically the bottom line is they don't really get along. And so this is the social interaction, the example of the social interaction. There probably are better animals that could be chosen as an example of positive social interaction. And the Catholic magazine should be about the Catholic faith, spreading the kingdom of Christ, and not about better social interaction between members of the community. But how did this happen? And inside the Flying Squirrel, quotations from Pope Benedict to Pope Francis, Pope Benedict. We have the increase of the liberal quotations and liberal acts. And there are three things that happened in the recent memory since December that have caused some of the priests in Europe to begin to stand up, the beginnings, the rumblings of a standing up are going on right now. One of those things was the condemnation of Father Pino. Father Pino is a society priest who is one of the 37 priests involved in the writing of a letter criticizing Bishop Fillet, which was released on February 28, 2013. And this letter said basically, Bishop Fillet, you said A, then you said the opposite. You said B, then you said the opposite. You said C, then you said the opposite. And this is a contradiction. You need to clarify these contradictions, stand for the truth of Archbishop Lefebvre, or back down, resign. So the letter was considered very offensive by Menzingen. None of the 37 priests' names are written down on the article, so they used various methods of subterfuge and hacking emails and so on to discover the names of 3, Father Pino, Father Rieu, and Father Selnov. Father Pino accepted to undergo a canonical trial. And in the canonical trial, in the Society of St. Pius X, the SSPX trial, it was discovered that he was involved in doing a spell check and into making some corrections in the making of this this letter of the 37 priests, which is mainly written by Father Rieu. And therefore, the decree of the Bishop Fillet and his court was, because of this criticizing of the Superior General and having a spirit of rebellion and trying to undergo a sedition and inside the society, therefore, the Father Pino can no longer celebrate Mass, even privately, forbidden to celebrate Mass, cannot hear confessions, removes his right to hear confessions, cannot preach sermons, teach catechisms, or do any priestly apostolate of any kind, because he did a spell check on a letter that was critical of the Superior General. Now, this is a very serious travesty of justice. Of course, Father Pino is still celebrating the Mass. He's not following this injunction. But nonetheless, he went through all of these steps to try to see the justice of Menzingen. His case was not properly heard. He was given an unjust condemnation, and that was a scandal that shook France. And then secondly, the book of Father Pfeiffer. Father Pfeiffer is a canon lawyer of the society and an old venerable priest of the SSPX in France. He has been actually supporting us in our little resistance, our ideas and our theology anyway, since the beginning, though in practice he has said, no, don't speak out now. He's changed his mind this year, but last year he said, don't speak out. Now he realizes that it was good for us to speak out, and soon he will be joining us. Now, Father Pfeiffer, he wrote a book, Archbishop Lefebvre and the Relationship with Rome and the Vatican. And all it is a compilation, about a 300 or 400 page compilation of the familiar writings, sermons, talks of Archbishop Lefebvre in relation to Rome, Vatican II, the new Mass, and what to do in our dealings with Rome. We all know what it says. Archbishop Lefebvre condemns Vatican II, condemns the new Mass, condemns the Council completely, says we cannot make any agreement with Rome until Rome comes back to the Holy Roman Catholic faith and converts. This was published. Now, as of a few months ago, Bishop Fillet has now officially forbidden the book. He has condemned the book. It is on the index of the Society of St. Pius X as condemned literature. Now, keep in mind that in the October 13th conference in Kansas City, the so-called traditional conference of Bishop Fillet and his sermon, he said that we must be careful when we're reading Pope Francis's Evangelium Gaudium, but you can read it, you just have to be careful. And when he gave his talk on the atheists, again, you must be careful because it's not altogether perfectly Catholic, but it's okay to read it. However, the texts of Archbishop Marcel Lefebvre are forbidden at the same time. Forbidden to be published, to be read, to be sold in our bookstores, cannot be. And so this has caused a scandal throughout France. Now many priests are going to write a letter. Father de Cacré, the Superior of France, is writing a letter right now to Bishop Fillet, which will be published in the next few days, hopefully publicly. And the letter says that you condemned the writing of Archbishop Lefebvre. He commanded several times of Father de Cacré, you remove this book of Archbishop Lefebvre from all the bookstores. I forbid it to be sold in France. Now, this book does not yet exist in English. It only is in French. About 300, 400 pages. And Father de Cacré, the Superior of France, refuses to obey Archbishop Fillet. I will not remove these. So there's a controversy in France. The liberal priests are burning books and throwing the books out and have nothing to do with the book. The priests in favor of Lefebvre are selling the books in their bookstore. And so one society chapel is selling the book, another society chapel has banned the book. It's a death penalty in one society chapel, selling it in another society chapel. And Bishop Fillet, rather than leaving the situation alone, which would be the wisest thing for him to do, has laid down the law and said this book cannot be sold. This teaching of Richard Lefebvre cannot be tolerated in the SSPX. And so that's the second major thing. And the third is the Rosary Crusade. Now we have a new Rosary Crusade in which Bishop Fillet gives an intention, which is that the life of tradition return within the Catholic Church. The life of tradition return within the Catholic Church. Now, how can tradition return within the Catholic Church? The Dominicans of Avrier made a statement now this last Sunday or today, and they just made it very recently, that the Dominicans of Avrier, the 9 priests of Avrier, and the 25 monks of Avrier refuse to participate in any way with this new Rosary Crusade, because no tradition cannot return to the church, because the church is traditional. Where there is the church, it is traditional. Secondly, the real meaning of the statement to pray for the intentions that tradition return within the church is actually praying that the traditionalist, irregular Catholics of the Society of St. Pius X return to the modernist Rome, to be approved by modernist Rome. Like one guy told me the other day, he was told to the bishop, he says, I don't understand. He says, you know what, you don't ask a thief and a liar for a certificate of honesty. You don't get the certificate of honesty from a thief and a liar. We don't need a certificate of Catholicism from non-Catholics. And that we're not looking to be approved by the conciliar church as Catholic when they're not Catholic. It's foolishness. This certificate of approval is a waste of time. Rome has to convert. So this third Rosary Crusade, this 12th Rosary Crusade, whatever it is, the 5th, whatever number Rosary Crusade it is, this latest Rosary Crusade, the intention of tradition returning to Rome, returning to the church, returning to the church, within the church. Which means there are not 2 churches anymore. Archbishop Lefebvre speaks of 2 churches, and the modernists speak of 2 churches. They speak of the church of the council and the previous church. They're the ones that invented it. And we speak of the church of the council and the previous church, the true church, the Catholic Church. And so now, but this speaks of only one church, as if the conciliar church is the Catholic Church, which it is not. And then the true church and tradition can never be separated. So this intention is blasphemy. Calling the Blessed Virgin Mary to pray for something that is an ambiguous intention, that has multiple opposite meanings, and that just tries to disguise the true meaning of the intention of the Rosary Crusade, which is to bring the SSPX under Rome. And yet, at the same time, Bishop Fillet seems to be saying, I never wanted to deal with the modernists. He did say that. I never wanted to deal with the modernists. What I want is a deal with Rome. So he makes a distinction between the modernists and Rome. He never wanted to deal with the modernists. He wants to deal with Rome. And not only that, we must have a deal with Rome or else we're not Catholic. That's what he said in the October 13th sermon. And so that he's committed still to this deal with Rome. He's condemned Archbishop Marcel Lefebvre, continuing to do wicked acts such as the condemnation of Father Pino, insane Rosary Crusades for evil intentions. And so this is causing priests to stand up. Father Fuchs in Austria has now signed his resignation because of this change. Another priest calling and have an indirect contact with, very upset, very angry at this new Rosary Crusade, because it is said here this is a false Rosary Crusade, and it shows that Bishop Vallée has in no way stepped back from his liberalism. And then another priest and two priests in South America and Colombia are standing up with Father Four. And then there's going to be several priests who are going to be very soon writing a declaration in France, specifically concerning especially the Archbishop Lefebvre book, which has been condemned, the teaching of Archbishop Lefebvre condemned, and then also that we are going to stand for the tradition of the Society of St. Pius X, fidelity to the Society of St. Pius X, fidelity to the Catholic tradition, and many priests are going to sign publicly and accept the expulsion that should happen from doing that. So there is beginnings of a major or an uprising finally happening in Europe. And so hopefully Father de Coqueret, who is the Superior of France, will stand strong. He is going to be replaced in August by a new liberal superior. And so the rumblings are going on in France, rumblings are going on in Europe. The Father Tracy made an announcement 2 weeks ago in Hanover that 7 German priests were gone from the Society of St. Pius X 2013. That's in Germany alone. 7 in Germany. There are 5 of us in the Philippines, in Asia. And then altogether there's a good 50 priests. Now not all of these priests, of the Society of Priests that are out, came in the direction of the resistance. Others have just gone off on their own, or are even going in the direction of the more greater liberalism towards the diocese, towards the modernism. And so not all, majority are being thrown out because it's the greatest departure in the history of the Society of St. Pius X of Priests. Father de Coqueret, the Superior of France, may be asking for Bishop Vallée. He must resign. And that is the only hope of showing some kind of reconciliation or solution for this problem. Bishop Tissier wrote a postcard to one of the French priests saying, "Happy Christmas, everything's better now, and things are better now, and have a happy Christmas." And the priest wrote back saying, "How can you have a happy Christmas? What are you telling me happy Christmas for? How can we have a happy Christmas when our society is dying and everything is horrible?" And they've abandoned Archbishop Lefebvre and abandoned the truth. And then Bishop Tissier wrote back and said, "You're right. I'm sorry." And then that priest told him how wicked was the June 27th declaration. Basically the same tirade that I gave to Bishop Tissier with Father Hugo back a few months ago concerning the wickedness of that June 27th declaration of the 3 bishops. Bishop Tissier then wrote back to that priest and said, "I am sorry for having signed that declaration. I'm sorry for having signed that declaration of the June 27th on the occasion of the 25th anniversary. But now we have to pray that Bishop Tissier gets the courage to publicly, instead of saying these things only privately to some of the priests, but to publicly announce that, and again to publicly stand up in the line of Archbishop Lefebvre." So there's going to be on January the 16th, there is a call from some of the priests in France for a prayer, holy hours, from midnight to midnight, 12 a.m. until 11:59 p.m. On the January 16th, which is the feast of Saint Marcel. Saint Marcel the first, Pope and Martyr, the patron of Archbishop Lefebvre. And so on the feast of Saint Marcel, we're asking for a faithful to pray specifically for the conversion and the standing up of Father de Coqueret. Because if the Superior of France really and truly stands up, I spoke with him for 3 hours earlier this last year, and he sees the difficulties, he sees the problems, he knows something must be done, but he is afraid, he's afraid, he doesn't know what to do. He doesn't yet have the grace to stand up publicly and clearly and lead a charge against the liberalism of Menzigen and unite the priests of France to establish a seminary and to maintain fidelity in the Catholic parishes there that are willing to stand for tradition. And he's many priests will follow him. Because Father de Coqueret is a very holy priest. He has been a good superior of France for many years. The French priests, who are very tough, difficult, pain-in-the-neck priests to deal with, they have a great respect for Father de Cacre. He's tough, he's strong, he has a good spirituality, and he has a great respect amongst the French priests. And so if he were to get the grace to really stand up, it should cause a great following in France, because they're looking for that strong leader to guide them and to bring them into the fight. There are many, many priests. I've already met many of them in France. Let's say at least 10 of them, maybe more than that. But not all of them I met about 20 priests in France, but not all of them society priests. And they are ready to stand up, but they're looking for that leader. And Father de Cacre is the leader they're looking to. And so we pray specifically that Father de Cacre gets the grace to stand up against the wickedness of Menzingen, and to gather the priests around him. So there seems to be rumblings going on in Europe right now, the beginnings of rumblings. And it's a day late and a dollar short, but it's better than nothing. They need to stand up for the truth. And so that's what's happening right now. And then meanwhile, our parishes are continuing to just steadily. Some are getting a little bit smaller. Some are staying about the same, and others are growing, and overall it's a growth. And then of course new places that we're trying to go to, but overall there's a growth in our work. And right now we're saying Mass in more or less 60 different places between Asia and here and Europe. And we're saying the Mass in those places, and that's about 7 of us priests going to all those places. And then the other priests, most of them are in other places, another 30 or so places in which these priests are, taking care of their parishes and operating alongside us. So in any case, that's sufficient for now. And then anybody know what's happening over here? What's the developments here? And would anybody have any questions or whatever? That's good. Yes. No, not now. No, I don't think so. There's a couple of possibilities, I believe, but they've been possibilities for a while, and I don't know. I think that Bishop Williamson has his house. That's another thing that is finally he's going to be moving into his house in England in February, and I think it's very possible that once he moves into his house, perhaps 2 priests from America may hopefully come out to him. But again, we don't know. And then but yes, go ahead.
Is this the property that he was trying to acquire? He got that property?
He did get the property. It's an 8-bedroom house in England and Kent. And also one of the priests should be coming with him. Mother Abraham should be coming, an English priest. And so there'll be yet another priest joining. In the last couple of months, Father Pfeiffer will be joining us in the next few days. I think that next Sunday they're going to make their announcements, so things are, and other priests will be joining, and Father Pino is not going through an appeal of his canonical process. He's just stepping out and going to the battlefield right now. He's done that a couple of weeks ago. So there's just more priests joining in the battle in each place. Same thing in South America. Father Altamira and another priest with him are joining with Father Four, who's kind of leading the charge in the Spanish-speaking South America, and then Father Thomas Aquinas in the Portuguese area. And so yes.
I'd like to hear an update on the seminary there in
Kentucky. In Kentucky, we have seminary is going okay. We have. It's mainly just 2 professors, myself and Father Hugo. And the seminarians coming back from their little vacation, the 13th, tomorrow. No, not tomorrow, but last Monday, Tuesday. And so there's others expressing an interest to come, maybe. We're working on the visa. What's taken us a long time are the visas. We have 4 coming from South America and 3 from the Philippines. So there's 7 visas that we are, just finishing up the red tape. And the 4 visas in South America we've been working on theoretically for almost a year now. But again, it's not that we've been doing it for the whole year. That's how long it's been going on. There's so many things going on. We're not getting all the paperwork in at the right time, and it's just taking time. Yeah.
Are you going to have the room for them?
No, but we'll figure something out. Also Sister Benedicta will be coming over in the next few weeks. In fact, next week from Sicily, and we're going to be getting started. The sisters will also be beginning, an order of sisters, and so they'll also be beginning in Kentucky. Sister Benedicta is an Italian sister, and who joined tradition last year, and what do you call it? Anyway, then there's others that will be coming as well. So a few girls, a few ladies, here and there. And remember, the beginning is, of course, always very challenging, getting things up and running. But we need sisters, we need brothers, we need young men for the priesthood. And we're working on 7 with their visas coming over. We had 7 enter in October. And, of course, some of them are going to be brothers and not studying for the priesthood. We'll see, how many, persevere. Another one's coming who's due to be ordained a priest, if all goes well, actually this year in June, but may be helping us a little bit, but not directly working with us 100%. Maybe helping us a little bit for a short while, and then because we'll just finish the training and many years preparation, and then also there's some other vocations. Dealing with a couple of special vocations that have been many years in religious life. One particular vocation working on that, he's been so many years studying for the priesthood, and but with getting burnt, in the Society of St. Pius X, getting burnt is not something that's unusual. And so sometimes some of these men, they still want to be priests. They want to continue the religious life, but they've been burned so many times that to go again, even though they want to be religious, they want to be priests, but to go and get burned again it's very difficult so there's a lot of attacks of the devil trying to stop the vocations and trying to attack them. But basically, with struggles, things are going, much better than expected, because it was looking dark earlier last year. And meanwhile, there's Father Pfeiffer is speaking of trying to get a seminary going in France, hopefully in the next year or so as well. So we'll see. Yeah. Yes.
What is Bishop Gallardo's name?
He's with Bishop Fillet. He's with Bishop Fillet, and Bishop de Gallardo, I think, is. He's switched over to the 3 bishops were together in April of 2012, but then the other 2 bishops went over to the side of Bishop Fillet in the next 6 months after that. They both approved of the expulsion of Bishop Williamson in October. They agreed to his expulsion at the General Chapter in July, and so they accepted all those things. They had made a shift, and Bishop Tissier, I think, however, is capable of shifting back, and because he does, he's fighting with that false obedience and false unity, and once he can overcome that, hopefully Bishop Tissier will, go back to standing strong again. So, but I don't know, so maybe we better pack it in here. Anything else there? Right, so that's it. Okay, we'll go ahead and say a prayer here. In the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Ghost, amen. Glory be to the Father, to the Son, and to the Holy Ghost. Saint Vincent Ferrer, Saint Jude, Lady of Victory, Lady of Sorrows, Lady of Christians, Saint Ignatius, Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, amen.